ॐ सहना भवतु सहनो भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं कर्वावहै तेजस्विनामधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
Okay, so we'll begin today's session. So you had a question to ask in the last session.
That's right.
Yeah. So yes, sir. Please.
So the question was that Swabhavajam is a term which has been introduced for the first time in this chapter.
Yeah.
And I mean, it is not sitting in the flow. Even if these verses were not there, these 41, 42, 43, 44, it would not have mattered at all for the theme of, the 40th shlok says, Na tadasti prithivyaam va divi deveshu va punaha tattvam prakritijair muktam yadevi syat tribhir gunai. So that nothing is free of these three gunas, whatever is born in Prakriti. So that was perfectly all right. Now this once again, this justification of Chaturvarnya is something which is jarring. To me, it is jarring. Because Swabhavaja is a particular way of looking at people, that they are born with innate. And we have that in the 20th century, we have had that controversy of nature versus nurture. And we have seen a number of people who have, transcended those limitations which were there at the time of birth.
Yeah.
So I'm not very happy with these 4 verses, frankly.
So see, the way I would look at it is that he's coming back to Arjun, and he's explained whatever he had to explain, and now finally he's telling him that Arjun, he's reminding him that, look, Arjun, you are a Kshatriya. This is the final thing. Because after this, there is no explanation. After this, Arjun is also agreeing to do his duty. So he's telling him, reminding him that you are born with these qualities, that don't escape your nature. It's your Swadharma, do it. He's telling him that you are born with these qualities of a Kshatriya. He's explaining the qualities of all the 4 categories, but he's telling him that you are a Kshatriya and you have to do what is to be done. So in that context, if we look at it, it's like a stressing that you have to do what you have to do, and you can't run away from the battlefield, because by doing what you're supposed to do, even if it means killing, you will achieve the highest. You can't escape certain things. You are born into a certain situation, into a certain family, with certain habits, into a certain community, into a certain country, and you have to follow the rules of that time, place, your own nature. You have to follow the rules. So in that context, it's very much appropriate over here. So that is how I would look at it.
Okay.
Sir, see, we can't get away from classifying people as per the gifts they carry. Whether we use this language or scheme or another. For example, MBTI. MBTI is also a way of classifying, no?
Yeah, but it is not classifying occupations, no? It is not classifying occupation. There is a freedom. It is not. There is a freedom, and I mean that theory, MBTI theory also has its own limitations, detractions as well as criticisms.
Yeah, absolutely. Any framework is bound to have that, sir. No, what I'm saying is, so we have to take the merit, which is in terms of basically saying that look, each one is born, even if we classify or don't classify, in principle, we are born with different gifts. Right? That much we will say we are not uniform. As a matter of fact, that is a fundamental. Otherwise, we'll all become, almost robot-like. If we were all to be treated as uniform, that would be a very, it's a very regimented world to live in, because then everything will apply to everybody. The fact that we have internals are different. Now, how we classify them, really, yes, we could, join issue on that. But as Ashaji said, to remind Arjuna that, look, you are born with, in quotes, the Kshatriya Guna, is a timely reminder, I feel. So to that degree...
See, he's born with a Kshatriya Gun, but it's also, see what Vinoba Bhave is saying, that Swadharma is based on where you are born, of course, your inner innate nature, the Swabhav, but the situation, all these factors put together. And he also says that Swadharma, one part of the Swadharma is bound to change. One part of the Swadharma is not going to change. Like my nature will remain the same. But he says like there are the different ashramas, the Brahmacharya, the Grahast, the Vanprasth and the Sannyas. So he says that when I'm in the Brahmacharya ashram, my duty is to study. Then when I go into the Grahast ashram, my duties will change. I marry, I'm a householder, I have to look after the society around me, I have to look after the family. Then when I reach the other ashram, then my dharma will change, because then I have to let go. I have to step aside and allow the other generation to be in the forefront, in the front line. So he says one part of that changes, but there is some nature that can also change. And he says, I do concede that, there will be exceptions to the rule. But he says, by and large, we have a nature and we have to follow that nature. We have to first understand what is my nature. This kind of reflection has to be there.
But that is not suggested anywhere, that you should reflect on your inner nature. It is your Swabhavajam, and then you are born into a family, and that becomes your Varna.
Correct, sir. But
there is no testing of what are your innate qualities.
So, but that is the reason for conflict, no? So that is the reason for conflict in today's time. We are all born into certain streams, into certain families, into certain professions, but then we are not following those, correct?
People have their different orientations, no? People have different orientations. So they may be born into a particular thing, but they can go into some other area as well.
So then exactly, sir, that's exactly what I'm saying, that you need to know your nature. You need to find what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, I agree with you. With you. But I'm saying these verses do not indicate that.
No, these verses are for Arjun to tell him that, look, you are born as... So we'll read further, then we will come to know. He's telling him that follow your own nature. At this moment, he's born as a Kshatriya. So he's telling him, follow your nature.
Yeah, but though I'm born as a Kshatriya, that may not be my nature. My nature may be something else.
Correct.
So that is theoretically so. But Arjuna has shown himself to be an outstanding Kshatriya.
Right.
Sorry?
So you have
Arjuna has shown himself to be an outstanding Kshatriya.
so
For you and me or somebody else, that may apply. But
Yeah.
with Arjun, there is no doubt that he is born a Kshatriya and he is, behaved very well as a Kshatriya. So because these verses are meant for him, I think it's an apt reminder.
So the fact that Arjun has reached the battlefield itself shows
Yeah.
that the Kshatriya, he is. So you're right that we.
If he is a Kshatriya, he's an outstanding Kshatriya. If he has reached that, then where is the question of reminding him? That's what I'm saying.
There is a
Sir,
question.
नहीं नहीं
There is no
reminder तो
question
चाहिए
of
होता है.
reminding him.
नहीं, sir.
It has already been reminded. In 17 chapters, he has been reminded.
Yeah, this is
So-
the last one.
Yeah. So the 18th chapter, this Swabhavajam is absolutely untenable in today's world. It is not scientifically proven.
Okay, so we
Sir,
Swabhavaja
Science,
is
that.
not proven.
Okay,
He's
Sir.
born into a
It's like
Kshatriya family, and therefore his sanskaras have made him Kshatriya.
sir, we should not take science as a gospel. Science is utterly unscientific.
So then you take something else as gospel.
So we should be
You take
logical.
the history. You take history as gospel.
No. There is.
You
There
take
is-
history as gospel, no?
I think it's experience is the best gospel, sir. Our own
Yeah,
experience
so
is what we should go by.
Exactly.
right.
So my family has been a Brahmin family, but we had done Krishi, we had done Goraksha, and a number of people are doing Vanijya as well.
Right.
And from the Peshwa's time, the Brahmins were acting as Kshatriyas. They were fighting battles in Panipat and so on and so forth. So history does not prove that there is something called Swabhavaja.
No, sir. All we are saying here is that people may be born, but they may not necessarily have those qualities. I may be born in a Vaishya family. I may or may not be an outstanding business person.
That's
Right?
right.
Huh.
That's right.
No, that is fine. But the fact that I have a certain orientation, that cannot be denied. I may have
Yeah,
a teacher's
that orientation develops, no? That orientation develops through the first
No,
5
sir.
years of your nurture.
Not so. See, we are born with it. Mozart was born at 3 or 7 years of age. He could compose and sing. So it's not that it develops. It's not a matter
Those
of nurture.
those are exceptions. Those are exceptions, sir.
Sir, he is just one. But that means that each one shows his potential at a different age. In
Right.
our Baniya families, what happens, see, the children often are asked to, sit on the galla, the counter, from an early age. And sometimes they take to it, sometimes they don't take to it. Sometimes they take to it so well that, just in younger years, they show such a flair and they make outstanding shopkeepers. Now, that doesn't mean that 100% of Baniya children will be, shopkeepers. That जो व्यवस्था है वो अभी इतनी सुदृढ़ नहीं है. But the fact that I have a certain nature, I have a certain sanskar set which I carry with me, that is, I think, undeniable. In my experience, definitely is undeniable. In empirically also, I think it's not possible to deny that.
Yeah, empirically, people have made studies and said that nurture is more important than nature.
No.
Yeah.
Sir,
So I think we will.
in fact, it's the opposite. From what I had heard at college, there was a study they had done, say for alcoholics. They said you're 4 times more likely to be an alcoholic if your father or parent has been an alcoholic, as opposed to whatever, the effect of nurture. Anyway, see, these studies are neither here nor there, sir. These scientific conclusions keep changing, and what's truth today will be, a lie tomorrow. So we can not rely on it here or there. It's best if we look to our own experience and does it ring to in our experience.
It
would
doesn't
say
ring
my
with my
case-
experience. This certainly doesn't
my
ring with
case-
my experience.
I would say it rings to in my experience.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
Fine,
I was born
fine,
to be a business
fine.
person, but I went
That's
through that
perfectly all
path.
right. Yeah.
Huh?
That's perfectly all right. I mean,
That's what I'm saying.
we can have different interpretations.
Yes. So
Yeah.
what I'm saying is, yes, from your perspective, maybe the reminder is not necessary, But in my perspective, to be reminded of my gifts is hardly, it's never unwelcome.
Okay, I think Sunilji will leave it. We'll go on with the next verses and maybe they will provide us more clarity. So, okay,
Yeah.
we stand where we stand. So let's move on to 18.46.
Yeah. 45, no?
Okay.
Yeah. स्वे स्वे कर्मण्यभिरत संसिद्धिं लभते नरः स्वकर्मनिरत सिद्धिं यथा विन्दति तच्छृणु.
So he's telling Arjun in this verse that keenly devoted to his own natural duty, man attains the highest perfection in the form of God realization. Here, the mode of performance whereby the man engaged in his inborn duty reaches that highest consummation. So we'll read the next verse and then we'll discuss.
प्रवृत्तिर्भूतानां येन सर्वमिदं ततं स्वकर्मणा तमभ्यर्च्य सिद्धिं विन्दति मानवः.
So he's saying, from whom all beings come to being and by whom this whole universe is created, by worshipping him through the performance of his own natural duties, man attains the perfection. So whether in whatever mode I am born in whatever place, family, nature, with whatever thing I'm born in, whatever I do in life, whether I'm in any profession, whether I'm a housewife, whether I'm a businessman, whether I'm in the army, or whatever profession I can think of in today's world, wherever I'm born in, but I can achieve perfection by doing that job, by doing my work as devotedly and as efficiently as possible, by putting my mind on the highest. I'm simply doing my job. And from that, I will attain perfection. Basically, this is what he's saying. And now this job is, now I may be a housewife, but I may also be a businesswoman. I may have multiple roles, but wherever I am, I have to do my job best of my ability, is what it means. At one moment, I may be a mother. At one moment, I may be a teacher. At one moment, I may be something else. So I have to do my job to the best of my perfection. Shall we read the next one?
Yeah. श्रेयान् स्वधर्मो विगुणः परधर्मात् स्वनुष्ठितात् स्वभावनियतं कर्म कुर्वन्नाप्नोति किल्बिषम्.
So he says, better is one's own duty, though devoid of merit, than the duty of another well performed. For performing the duty ordained by one's own nature, man does not incur sin. Now he's telling Arjun that maybe it's your duty to be, not maybe, it is your duty to be a Kshatriya. You are in the middle of the battlefield. Now, if you think of going away and becoming a sannyasi, don't think that these thoughts are going to leave you. You're escaping the battlefield, but the thoughts of Duryodhan are not going to leave your mind. His actions, what he has done against you, are not going to leave your mind. You are going to be disturbed. So you might as well face it. Don't push things under the carpet. Might as well face it and do it, because the situation also demands. See, I may get into a situation, I may not be capable, but I develop myself. That situation is going to remain in my mind. If somebody has done some wrong to me, or if I am in a business family and I want to not do business, if I want to take up a job, then those, I may not be capable at that moment, but I can develop my skills and reach that, my goal. So it also means that any duty is maybe devoid of merit. Like for a farmer, he has to kill the organisms in the land. Now it is devoid of merit, as in there is hinsa involved over there also. But I have to do my job, because later he's saying that there is violence involved. There is some dosh. In the next verse, he's going to tell us that there is dosh in every profession. So we can read that and we'll go back. We'll have to go back and forth with these shlokas.
सहजं कर्म कौन्तेय सदोषमपि न त्यजेत् सर्वारंभा हि दोषेण धूमेनाग्निरिवावृताः.
He says, don't relinquish your innate duty, even though it has a measure of evil. For undertakings are beset with some perfection or the other, as is fire covered by smoke. Everywhere there is going to be some problem or the other. The best of work is going to have some defect in it, definitely. But because it is your duty, you have to do it. And then the first question of Arjun in this chapter, what is sannyas and what is tyaga? So Krishna is saying, do your karma, but just give up the fight. I am in this situation. I have to do what is right. Whatever is the result, I have to face it. Whether it's success or failure, whether it is criticism or honor, whatever. So now, would you like to say something? Anyone would like to say something, Mahendra sir, Ashutosh sir?
I think you go up to 60. So many things will be clear.
Yes, so many things will be clear. Exactly.
Up to 60, I think you can.
Yes.
And then we discuss. Then we discuss.
Correct. So many things will become clearer by just reading these verses. So shall we read the next verse?
असक्त बुद्धिः सर्वत्र जितात्मा विगत स्पृहः नैष्कर्म सिद्धिं परमां संन्यासेनाधिगच्छति.
So he says, he whose intellect is not attached to anyone or anything, whose thirst for enjoyment has altogether disappeared, and who has subdued his mind, reaches through Sankhya Yoga the consummation of actionlessness. Now he's got an actionlessness. Now what does this mean? Suddenly from action. So Mahendra sir, you are nodding your head. Would you like to say something before I
what is it, ma'am?
I'm talking about actionlessness, nishkarma.
But before that, I don't see anywhere this Sankhya Yoga mentioned in this verse, nor is there any reference to it. And in the parenthesis, it is said the path of knowledge. That also is not indicated anywhere in this verse.
Correct. It's so we'll not just read that asakta buddhi, where the intellect is not attached, and the unattached intellect, sarvatra, jitatma, vigata spruha. This much we can understand without any longing or without any desire. And naishkarmya. So what is this actionless, the perfection? What is this naishkarmya we are talking about? Naishkarmya siddhim, the perfection consisting in freedom from action, the state which is transcending action. We'll forget the translation. That state, by that state he reaches. So what is the state of actionlessness? He's talking about action and then he's talking about actionlessness. What do we understand from this? So Mahendra sir, would you want to say something?
Nobody can be free from action. One is bound to.
Yes.
Has to perform.
He has to perform, but why bringing in Neshkar?
Yes. The doership should go to a zero. Once you are not, either the concept of zero doership comes, I think we will be in between somewhere.
Okay.
So the doership, see, actionlessness is perhaps a concept again, because action is, you can't, you have to perform knowingly, unknowingly, willingly, unwillingly. Now, any concept attached to the action where the doership comes, that should come to a zero. I think that's what it is talking about.
Okay.
So
basically, you see how this is explained is that when you go on doing these actions just fall off. Like when you go on doing the right action, you're on the right path, the actions will just fall off. Like you, so how Vinoba Bhave explains is that first there is intense activity. There is intense activity. Like I is my temper. okay, I'm in a situation which is not very pleasant and I react very badly. I shout. Or he says there is a mob at some place and then the people are just shouting, shouting. Somebody is just shouting, keep quiet, keep quiet. There is intense activity in that person. Then there is a policeman who comes and he just lifts his finger, like, keep quiet. And he may just say once, keep quiet. And everybody keeps quiet. Like we see children, they are shouting and there's a monitor in the class and the monitor says, keep quiet, but children don't listen to him. Then the teacher comes and the teacher says, be silent, and the children listen. And then the principal just walks past and then everybody is silent. Now, the activity has reduced, but the action is done. The action of keeping the people quiet. So what he's saying that slowly, as you go on doing the right actions, the actions will be performed by themselves. You don't have to do anything. You will reach that state of sannyas. Just by being there, you will attain that state. Like Buddha. Buddha is said of Buddha, like we've already discussed this in previous classes, that wherever Buddha used to go, a 2-kilometer circumference around him would be non-violent. It would automatically happen. So he says, attain that perfection. Do your job. Initially, it will be action. Initially, there will be anger, there will be intense activity, then the activity will get gentle, then it will cease totally. So he says, reach that state of sannyas by doing your action. Make yourself worthy of that. Slowly do your action. That action will slowly fall off. But you can't escape it. If you don't do it in this birth, next birth you will do it. You will be forced to do it. Whatever are our duties, see, whatever are our duties, like as a mother, we have, like as a mother, father, as a parent, let us take it as a parent, I have some duties and we don't fulfill them. Then the children turn out to be monsters. And then there is a karma, then maybe you're born again with the same kind of children teaching you the same lessons. Or there are so many lessons which we don't learn in life. But then that's why we get this birth and death. So he says that wherever you are, whatever is your swadharma, do it. If you, like it's in the previous verse, he says that Shreya, your dharma is superior. Better is your own duty, devoid of merit, than the duty of another well done. So worms are born in poison also. They have to live in that. There's a story of the ox and the fox, frog. Now the frog can't become an ox. He's in the well, so now if he can come out of the well, fine. But if he's in the well, he has to do whatever is best over there. I am in a certain situation. I cannot look at something else and say I must do that and leave my situation. Now this is something which we have to ponder upon. Now, if it, like there are so many people who invite me, tell me, आज आ जाओ, सुखमनी का पाठ है, हनुमान चालीसा का पाठ है, आप योगा करते हो, यहाँ भी आ जाओ, वहाँ भी आ जाओ. It is not my duty to go on attending everything. I have certain duties to do. Maybe I don't get anything out of it, but well, that's it. I'm not saying you should not expand yourself, but at least fulfill. It is fulfilled, and if you have the time, then do it. Mahendraji gave a very good example last week or the week before last, where he said that I reflected and I thought I'm not doing my duties. So I just sat with myself and I decided, no, this is what I have to do. No matter what, whether the others feel bad or whether I feel bad that I'm not attending certain things or, whatever it is. That my duties have to be done. They are without merit. I don't get the benefit of exercise. I don't get the benefit of so many things. Well, so be it. Because it's already mentioned in verse 48 that there is dosh in every work. In 48, if you read it, sir, there is dosh. Like fire is covered by smoke. There is dosh in everything. But then I have to do because it's my duty. So last week, even I gave the example of standing up to my neighbor who had parked his car so badly that it was just impossible. And I told that he told me that you are such a pious lady, I look up to you and all that. And then I said, well,
Yes.
so be it. Let him think what he wants. I, this is not the first time. I have kept quiet so often on this topic, so often. It's been years that I have kept quiet, but he has just pushed me around. Wherever I park my car, he just parks my car. Like whenever my car is not there, he'll come and park his car. And I have kept quiet and quiet and quiet. And I said, why? I mean, and this is what, fine, now he's not talking to me. The whole family is not talking to me. So I said, well, they will start talking, but because I'm going to be cordial. So these things are going to happen. They are going to happen. But then one moves on. In the end, maybe one finds oneself alone, but that's fine. So So I think we have to understand them very well that finally, or we'll read more verses and then it will come even clearer.
सिद्धिं प्राप्तो यथा ब्रह्म तथाप्नोति निबोध मे समासेने कौन्तेय निष्ठा ज्ञानस्य या परा.
So it says that Arjun, know from me only briefly. Now he's saying again, I'm telling you briefly the process through which man, having attained actionlessness, which is the highest consummation of Jnana Yoga, reaches Brahma. So again, see, initially it is action. Now finally it becomes actionlessness. So finally, maybe I'm taking my own example. Maybe now this person, after things have really reached a climax, because now the whole building is involved in this issue, and we've increased the car park charges. We've done a lot of changes because of this one act. I got a help from other members, and finally, this man has to pay 1,800 extra per month because of his misdeed, which he's very sad about. But now, finally, these things are happen. So I look at it that way. Finally, even if the car is empty, he will never dare to do it. Finally, sometimes you need to be punished, or like Duryodhan had to be punished. Sometimes the action slowly, your presence becomes your signature, kind of. Slowly, you reach that state where you don't have to actually act. Like, let me take the example of Paramhans Madhav Das ji, who was the teacher of Sri Yogendra ji, who is the founder of the Yoga Institute. So Madhav Das ji is in that village. There was a man who used to drink, a young boy. I've shared this example before. There was this young boy who was married, and then he took up to drinking, and his father was very upset because that boy was not looking after his wife and children. Everybody had tried in the family to dissuade him from drinking, but it wouldn't help. So finally, they went to Madhav Das ji. Madhav Das ji said, okay, just bring him to me. And then the boy went to Madhav Das ji, and Madhav Das ji just said one sentence: from today, no drinking. And the boy, no drinking.
Okay.
No drinking from today. And that boy went home and he stopped. From that day onwards, he did not touch liquor. So now you have to reach that state. But how do you reach that state of siddhi, of perfection? How do you reach that? By doing your duties. Whatever is the flaw, it's my duty. I have to do it. So that's why we have to know what is duty. That's why we have to get into a quiet state. And that's why this knowledge is brought in here. If we read further, more will come to light. So shall we read the next verse, 51?
विद्या विशुद्धया युक्तो धृत्यात्मानं नियम्य च शब्दादीन् विषयान् त्यक्त्वा रागद्वेषौ व्युदस्य च विविक्तसेवी लघ्वाशी यतवाक् कायमानसः ध्यानयोगपरो नित्यं वैराग्यं समुपाश्रितः अहंकारं बलं दर्प कामं क्रोधं परिग्रहं विमुच्य निर्ममः शान्तो ब्रह्म भूयाय कल्पते.
Okay. Now, these three verses are not telling us anything new. All this has appeared in the earlier verses. He's saying over here that first you be endowed with a pure intellect, control the self by firmness, or I'll read the verse as it is. Endowed with a pure intellect, taking of a light sattvika regulated diet that is given in 18.52. He says lagvashi, that is eating a moderate diet, eating but little, eating light, which we already learned in chapter 6. Partaking of a light sattvika regulated diet, living in a lonely, undefiled place, which was already there in chapter 12, having rejected sound and other objects of senses, control the mind, speech, body, restraining the mind and senses through firmness, through dhriti, through courage, taking a resolute stand on this passion, completely having completely got rid of attraction and aversion. That those words are used in Rag Dvesho is used in 51. Rag Dvesho Vyudasya. Then he says, giving up egotism, violence, arrogance, lust, anger, luxuries, devoid of the feeling of me, meam, me, mine, tranquil heart, such a man becomes qualified for oneness with Brahma, whose truth, consciousness, and bliss. Basically, I have to do my job. I have to do it with a samatvam state, which we already learned in chapter 2. I don't have to keep my eye on the result. I have to make my action as sattvic as possible. My action should not be based on desire. This killing of the Kauravas was not based on desire. It was based on justice. But it was Arjun's desire not to kill Bhishma and Drona. That was the desire part. Because they were his teacher and his grandfather, whom he loved a lot. Arjun had lost his father when he was a little boy, and the person who brought him up and brought them to Hastinapur was Bhishma. So naturally, there was a deep affection and attachment. So he says that don't have this feeling of me. Give up that egotism, violence, arrogance. Violence in the sense there is no desire. You're just doing your duty. Give up the anger. Be tranquil of heart. Remain in that quiet state and do what is to be done. You will reach that perfection. You will reach that state of actionlessness. You will reach that state of sannyas. So we'll read the next verse. 55.
ब्रह्मभूत प्रसन्नात्मा न शोचति न कांक्षते तमः सर्वेषु भूतेषु मद्भक्तिं लभते पराम्.
Established in identity with Brahma and cheerful in mind, Sankhya Yogi. Sankhya Yogi is the one who's got this knowledge. See, he's going on using this word, the translator is going on using this. If you don't have deep knowledge, you can't function well. You have this deep knowledge that this is my duty. This is what I'm supposed to do. This is the right thing. Established in identity with Brahma and cheerful in mind, let us take it as the yogi. The yogi no longer grieves nor craves, na shochati na kankshati for anything. Sama sarva sarveshu bhuteshu, the same to all. Yogi attains supreme devotion to. This was in 12, chapter 12, where he says, Yo na rishyati na dveshti na shochati na kankshati shubha shubha parityagi bhakti manya same priya. Is dear to me, the one who does not grieve, who does not desire, who does not hate, who does not want, rejoice, and he keeps up the good and the bad. So here he says, Prasanna Atma, be serene-minded and do your work. See, the Raja Harishchandra, he's a Raja, but then situations take him to the cremation ground. And then his own son comes there, dead. And then what does he do? He tells his wife, go get the money.
Yes.
I cannot cremate him. How difficult it is. How difficult it is to remain serene-minded. How difficult it is to do your duties at that moment. So he says, wherever you are, wherever situation takes you, wherever life takes you. See, the innate nature is being, developing that innate nature to another level. But externally doing whatever is to be done. Externally, maybe today I'm a servant, or tomorrow I'm a king. But I have to do those duties serene-mindedly. Nature has pushed me into this situation. What am I supposed to do? I have to handle it. We'll read the next verse, sir.
भक्त्या माम् अभिजानाति यावान् यश्चास्मि तत्त्वतः ततो मां तत्त्वतो ज्ञात्वा विशते तदनन्तरम्.
Through that supreme devotion, he comes to know me in reality, what and who I am, and thereby knowing me truly, he forthwith merges into my being. Whatever I'm supposed to do, I'm supposed to do with devotion, without hatred, as a part of my duty, with bhakti, and then I will understand, and then I will merge into the Supreme. So we'll read the next verse.
Yes.
सर्वकर्माण्यपि सदा कुर्वाणो मद्व्यपाश्रयः मत्प्रसादाद् अवाप्नोति शाश्वतं पदमव्ययम्.
That's the karma yogi. Basically, everybody is a karma yogi because you can't escape action. So the karma yogi who depends on me, that means every individual who depends on me, attains by my grace, Mata Prasadat, the eternal imperishable state, even though performing all actions. I do all actions, but I will gain sannyas from the actions. Like Raja Janak, who does everything, but he is not touched by anything. We'll do the next verse. Chetasa sarva karmani.
चेतसा सर्वकर्माणि मयि सन्न्यस्य मत्परः बुद्धियोगम् उपाश्रित्य मच्चित्तः सततं भव.
Mentally dedicating all your actions to me and taking recourse to the yoga in the form of even-mindedness. Buddhi yogam upashritaya. So buddhi yoga is that yoga of discrimination. Or when I have full control over my buddhi and I keep it even-minded, irrespective of anything around me, in me or outside of me. Fully devoted to me, constantly fix your mind on me. That control, that much choice I have, that I keep my mind in a balanced state. That I can see, I can visualize the repercussions of my action, that I understand whether the action is to be done or not to be done. When I go on purifying my intellect, how do I purify my intellect? Through the previous verses where he says, eating but little, staying dwelling in a solitary place, keeping your anger in control, which he says in these three verses which we read together, the three verses, where I'm free from violence, where I'm free from ahankar, force, power, darpa, arrogance, desire. Slowly, slowly, my buddhi will be purified. Slowly, slowly, I will know what is to be done. And slowly, slowly, I will reach the highest state of renunciation. So we read the next verse, 58.
मच्चित्तः सर्वदुर्गाणि मत्प्रसादात् तरिष्यति अथ चेत् त्वम् अहङ्कारान् न श्रोष्यसि विनङ्क्ष्यसि.
With your mind thus devoted to me, you shall by my grace overcome difficulties. But if from self-conceit you do not care to listen to me, you will be lost. Machitta sarva durgani mata prasada tarish. So some of these verses is Machitta sarva durgani. When I first started the Gita, when I was 20 years old, so this sentence I had written and I had pasted onto my desk. At that moment, I didn't understand, but I repeated this sentence again and again and again and again. I don't know why. Life wasn't bad. Life is not bad now also, but this sentence has helped me a lot in life. So There are some verses of the Bhagavad Gita which we can maybe just words, if not verses.
Yes.
There was this word Shantarajasam, just some words, just basically some words. If we hold on to those words also, I think it helps a lot. It helps you to sail through comfortably. So, and it says that it's from self-conceit. If you think too much of yourself and you start doing things yourself without understanding, then you will be lost. So one has to be very firm in one's belief in God. One has to be sure, think before one does anything. And then if one does it, then also leave the fruit to God. So we'll go to the next verse.
Yes.
यदहङ्कारम् आश्रित्य न योत्स्य इति मन्यते मिथ्यैष व्यवसायस्ते प्रकृतिस्त्वान् नियुक्ष्यति.
If taking your stand on egotism, you think, I will not fight. Vain is this resolve of yours. Your nature will drive you to act. We'll go to the next verse.
स्वभावजेन कौन्तेय निबद्धस्वेन कर्मणा कर्तुं नेच्छसि यन्मोहात् करिष्यत्यवशोऽपि तत्.
That action too, which you're not willing to undertake due to ignorance, you will perforce perform, bound by your own duty, born of your nature. You may not do it today, but after some time, you will just subconsciously do it. So there's a lot of study done on the subconscious mind and the conscious mind. So the conscious mind is just 1%. The rest of it is hidden, like an iceberg below the sea. So those things, we can't do that. That will just surface at any moment, and we will do actions by force. So now we've reached 60. If anybody has to say anything, or maybe we'll read 61 and then discuss.
Yeah,
Because
61.
that
ईश्वरः सर्वभूतानां हृद्देशेऽर्जुन तिष्ठति भ्रामयन् सर्वभूतानि यन्त्रारूढानि मायया.
Arjun, God abides in the heart of all creatures, causing them to revolve according to their karma by his elusive power, Maya, as though mounted on a machine. Yeah. Used. Is that we are helpless. What do? We are helpless. Now this COVID has come. We are helpless. Who thought of it? People have so many ideas in their mind. We all had. But it just happened. And then there are so many people who've lost lives. Families are going through a different kind of a mental grief. We don't know. These things are going to happen because we don't run the world. Things are going to happen in our lives. Situations are going to push us to do certain things which we have pushed under the carpet or which we are supposed to do, which we don't know. Maybe we are ignorant. Maybe we've not reached that state. So, but we will be made to do those things. Nature will force us. So basically, in the next verse, he's saying that take refuge in him with all your being. Tameva sharanam gaccha sarva bhavena bharata.
प्रसादात् परां शान्तिं स्थानं प्राप्स्यसि शाश्वतम्.
Yeah.
No, let's hold. We'd said we'll stop after 60.
Yeah, we'll stop
Yes.
now.
Yeah. So let's first let's hear Mahendraji if he has to say something.
No. Here, Ashutosh ji, this word Swabhava has come again. And Swabhava has come now. And Ashaji has also used conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Whether the 99% subconscious mind has anything to do with Swabhava and 1% is our directional action, whatever we are doing consciously. So this Swabhava and the conscious action, anything I would like to hear from the Ashutosh ji first, please.
So my view is that so far
Yes.
as the whole Gita is concerned, it has uh, it has tried to develop a certain framework around karma, guna, and then what has happened is that some other writers have later on interjected some of these verses because I mean, this is my overall understanding that uh, so far as Sankhya is concerned, the Vedantins have never been very favorably inclined towards Sankhya, and therefore, whenever they found that Sankhya is being propounded, they have brought in things which will emphasize Vedanta. And Vedanta would always, stand on the side of those who were ruling. And Sankhya was always on the side of the common people. I mean, that is my understanding. And therefore, this Swabhavaja is a way of introducing that things are things are ordained, preordained, destined to be this way. And therefore, you should not try to ask for something more. So the whole idea of Chaturvarnya is based on this, that there is a certain order which is God given. Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam guna karma vibhagashaha. And this guna karma vibhag comes from Swabhava. And that Swabhava comes from your deeds done in the previous birth. So in a way, it justifies, Swabhava justifies the current order of the society. And but it has not been defined. That is not the way the whole Gita, original Gita is laying out the framework before us. So suddenly this Swabhavaja comes into 18th chapter. So that is why I am a little surprised about this these few verses and this term Swabhavaja.
Yeah, whatever we are learning even now, if I'm asked to communicate to a third person, I may not be able to communicate exactly whatever I have learned so far. So it passes from one person to another, and in the process, minor changes also take place. Whatever we have got through the Shrutis and Smritis, whatever is said, whatever is remembered, and it is communicated. Now, in every communication, there might be a difference. And that's why we are taking a particular term and communicating or interpreting in our own way. However, the explanation is trying from one to the other verses to clarify or to explain what this word exactly means. And that's how you are very near to the, according to me, the word swabhava. And that's why I have taken the support of the 99% subconscious mind when this becomes conscious. When it sprinkles and it comes to the conscious mind, I think that is what the swabhava comes into picture. You take any work, decide to do one after another, but sometimes your subconscious mind will be active and you will act accordingly, whether you like or don't like, whether you want or don't want. It will take charge of you. And that's why it is suggested also. This swabhava is also, I would say that it has been used for a word what is known as dharma or the duty.
Yeah.
Whatever we have been destined to do, whether you like or don't like, you have to do, and you will do automatically. Sometimes you'll be forced to do. That's what it's want to say. Now, certain things we have to accept without any question. So long as we go on questioning, we may not be able to reach. So certain fundamentals have been explained, and repeatedly the term like me, self, the supreme self has been used. Now, if we interpret these words differently, according to us, we may not be on a proper platform. Whenever he says, Sarva Dharman Parityaja Mamekam Sharanam Vraja, Mamekam, he doesn't talking about he himself is talking again about but the you yourself itself. Now, repeatedly, this concept is being explained so that this goes deep into our subconscious. We act according to our subconscious, following certain standards, fundamentals without any questions. Once I said earlier, the summary of Bhagavad Gita, I have not found that a shlok here, but I think it is in that Srimad Bhagavad, where Vyas says in the end, Urdhvaho Virameshya Nacha Kaschit Shanoti Me. With my both arms raised up, I am crying at the top of my voice. With my both arms raised up, I am crying at the top of my voice. Urdhvaho Virameshya, chilla chilla karke कर रहा हूँ. Nacha Kaschit Shanoti Me. Still nobody is listening to me. What is that? Dharmat. By following the dharma alone, the duty alone, you are bound to get. Dharmat artha cha kaman cha tathim dharmana sevati. Then why don't you perform it? Now this is what the crux that is taking us. See, certain questions have to be stopped. You have to stop certain questions. Certain, we have to adopt a role model, and we have not to question the role model. And when the role model becomes he, then the questioning must come to a zero. I mean, it has the same concept has been being repeatedly communicated to us in one or the other verse. I think we must though interpret, but not question at certain places, act accordingly in life. Yes, Ashutosh ji.
So you're on mute. So we
Whatever I have said, whatever I wanted to say. So,
so shall we?
Incidentally, in Taoism also, there is a concept of action in inaction.
Yes.
And inaction in action. Incidentally, I would rather say, instead of saying actionlessness, we should say actorlessness. Because actionlessness is sometimes construed as lack of action, which cannot be, but actorlessness is precisely, I think, what we, kind of mean. And that is that the ego behind the performance action, that is absent. Then फिर जब, सब खेल और लीला हो जाता है.
Yeah. Correct.
So I think that may be more helpful in understanding the
Yes.
import of what has been said in the last few verses.
That's what Mahendra sir said, that doership goes.
Yes.
So I identify with the highest. The doership goes away. I merge into the full. the whole. I'm not there anymore. Shall we read the next verses? I don't think we can finish today, Sunil ji.
No need to finish. We'll finish the next class. No problem. Yeah. I mean, such a significant
That's important.
journey we are doing. So
Very
we
important.
don't have to force me to shut up.
Yes.
तमेव शरणं गच्छ सर्वभावेन भारत तत्प्रसादात् परां शान्तिं स्थानं प्राप्स्यसि शाश्वतम् इति ते ज्ञानमाख्यातं गुह्यात् गुह्यतरं मया विमृश्येतद् अशेषेण यथेच्छसि तथा कुरु.
So now Krishna is telling him that wisdom, this most profound secret, all secret knowledge, has been imparted to you by me. Deeply pondering over it, you do as you like. But in the very next verse, again he's telling him, I'm going to tell you. So we'll read the next verse.
सर्वगुह्यतमं भूयः शृणु मे परमं वचः इष्टोऽसि मे दृढमिति ततो वक्ष्यामि ते हितम्.
So now Krishna has told Arjun that I told you what to do. Now you think over it and you do what you like. And then the next verse he says, again I'm going to tell you. But again, supremely profound words, the most esoteric of all truths. Why? Because you're extremely dear to me, and therefore I shall give you this salutary advice for your own good. Now in chapter 10, among the Pandavas, I am Arjun. Krishna and Arjun are not different. You see, in the Rig Veda also there is the verse in, I think in the 6th part of it, it says that half of the day is Krishna and half of the day is Arjun. Both these words have been used, Krishna and Arjun. Krishna and Arjun are not separate. He says, you are just so dear to me, you're as if me. So I can't let you do what you want. You have to do what is right. You have to do what I want. You have to merge yourself in me. So he's giving
मन्मना भव मद्भक्तो मद्याजी मान नमस्कुरु मामे वैश्य सत्यन्ते प्रतिजाने प्रियोसि मे.
Yeah, Pratijani.
This is also a very popular
yes,
verse.
Yes. It says, give
61,
your mind.
65 are very oft-quoted verses.
This Gacha, this Sharad Bhai Chavan used to, he says, I just repeat these words.
Which one?
Tameva Sharanam Gacha, 62.
Acha, okay.
Bhavena, Sarva Bhavena. That Sarva Bhavena is so, it has this Sarva Bhavena word came in chapter 15 also.
Okay.
Sarva Bhavena Bharata. So,
Prasadat Param Shantim Sthanam Praptiti Shashvatam.
In so it came, it says Sarva Bhavena Bharata in 15.19. This Sarva Bhavena again is a very powerful thing. With my whole being, but there is no thought of me in, there is no thought of me. It's all you. Sarva Bhavena. And like Vinoba says that first it's I, then it's you. Like the strings of the, when the goat dies, they remove the strings and they use it for carding cotton. But first the goat says me. The goat bleats. But when the goat is dead, when the I sense is gone away, it says tu hi. That's a noise which comes out when you're cotton. So Sarva Bhavena, with my whole being, there is just you in every cell of me, and there is nothing of me. And so we read this 65 now. So give your mind to me, be devoted to me, worship me, bow to me. Doing so, you will come to me alone. Your whole subconscious mind will be full of me. There will be nothing of you left. Nothing of the karmas will be left. Nothing will be left. Everything will just dissolve into one. I truly promise you. Satyam te pratijane. You are exceptionally dear to me.
See, sorry if I may interrupt.
No.
Since we're talking about the subconscious, I just had this little chart. This is from Cyclopedia chapter 2,
Yeah.
right? So, right at the very top, see, it says how subconscious yoga education works.
Yeah.
Actually, education is all about training subconscious.
Yes. Correct.
Correct. So you see,
What lies away from the surface.
yeah. So you see, when I think that I am maybe a good businessman, let us just take an example. And that's what I have been trained into, and that has filled my mind. It has been drilled into my mind that this is what I should do. But when I go on doing that same act, when I take refuge in the Lord, then I understand that my real thing is to reach Him. That is, external act is going to take me towards Him. So wherever I am, in whatever situation I am, I have to do my external so perfectly that I will finally reach Him. That my mind will be purified through that act which I am doing, through all the actions I am doing. The purpose of all the actions is mental purification.
See, even if you don't involve Him, even at a everyday behavior level, I find that when you're going against your grain, when you're going against the signals from within, you usually experience burnout.
Yes.
Right? And when you are when you're going with the signals coming from within, what you can achieve is multiple times of usual.
Yeah.
And more than that, इंसान बड़ा प्रफुल्लित रहता है.
Correct. See this, not taking refuge in Him is fine. That I agree. But how does He get that clarity? When you go against your grain, when you talk about that, then when you go within, what is it that you want? So you're in connection with your true self, isn't it?
नहीं, वो तो है ही है. I'm only saying, even if suppose you don't accept Him for whatever reason.
You don't accept Him as a figure, but you're in
correct.
quiet self.
Even
You are.
Even then it holds true, is what I'm saying. वो उनको एक्सेप्ट कर लिया तो सारा उन्हीं का बनाया हुआ है, वो तो फिर बात नहीं है.
That we've already studied, that whether you want to see Him in a form or formless, basically it is some power within you or something yourself, where you go within and you understand, okay, this is what is to be done through me. Anyway,
and even what I'm saying is, even I mean, this is, and why I feel we are spending a little more time, because this is in a way the very starting point of any developmental endeavor. If you look at, I mean, what is actually development?
Yeah. So
you're only sorry.
No, sorry. This same thing is going to come in the next verse.
Okay, all right.
सर्व धर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज अहं त्वां सर्व पापेभ्यो मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः.
Returning all your duties to me, the all-powerful and all-supporting Lord, take refuge in me. I shall absolve you of all sins, worry not. Resigning all your duties to me, where I feel this external is just binding me. This is going against my grain, to put it in Sunil Ji's words. When I resign all that and I do what I am supposed to do, when I'm just concerned with, anyway, no, sorry, I won't say that. When I'm concerned with my sadhana, but this is what, that I give up all external duties which are superfluous, and I do what I'm supposed to do. When I go within myself, maybe I'm just supposed to just be there. See, it takes a lot of time to know what I have to do. Buddha also just left and he just sat in meditation, trying to understand at a different level. When Sir Mahendra Bhai was talking about, he says, I wasn't feeling comfortable, and then I just sat and did nothing for a week. Sometimes it takes time. when I give up what I think is to be done, when I actually start doing what should be done, there's a lot of difference in that. So we have 3-4 minutes. If anybody would, Sunilji, if you would like to elaborate or
No,
say
I
anything.
can only, I can only share. Sir, ma'am wants your attention.
Oh, namaste.
Yeah.
No, sir.
Namaste.
Who said that? I'm not seeing.
Hanji?
Something new? I didn't see.
नहीं सर आप म्यूट पे हैं
Sir, on hai.
Tell me something. She came to tell me something. Then I
Acha.
told her it's still on because it's
Okay.
close to 10:15, so she thought we might have ended.
Okay.
Yes. It's a puja room. It's her turn now.
yes no so no why I feel this is because yoga is a way of life, and when we say a way of life, then the focus in a way of life begins with the kind of action that one carries out in life, right? And increasingly in the modern era, yoga is more and more looked at it at that way, right? The moment when we therefore then the Gita's message becomes very relevant, right? Because then all the techniques remain just techniques, but the larger end to which those techniques are applied therefore becomes this, that how do we orient ourselves to
Yes.
be able to to be able to find the right thing to do, and then to be able to do it with all your might, so that we end up with success as well as happiness, right? So in that sense, the Gita has many beauties to my mind, but this one is the chief beauty, is that it starts to show you a kind of an approach or a path at the point where shall we say life and the individual kind of meet, right? So because all techniques have a limitation, because techniques are like isolated beads, what is it that ties them together into a coherent whole is, I think, this this beautiful message that the Gita is sharing with us. And so that's why I feel that, I'm now feel after having gone through these last now almost 9 months of Gita study, that it should perhaps be the very starting point of the journey of any yoga sadhak.